Hey everybody, good Friday evening. It's JC here with Wax Poetic Pro Wrestling. It is officially AEW Revolution weekend, and we are going to do a preview prediction, brief preview prediction of Revolution here. So obviously, just before we get into it, obviously this is gonna end up being one of AEW's biggest shows of the year as far as attendance wise and importance wise. They're gonna damn near sell this out right now. They're have about 16,000 tickets sold, and obviously the buy rate, pay-per-view buy rates are gonna be should be pretty high with this one, just because this is Sting's last match. This is Sting's retirement. Decades upon decades of Sting being in the wrestling business since the 1980s. I mean, personally, I've been watching Sting since I was 9-10 years old. I remember him in the old UWF when he first came in, and then obviously UWF got bought out by Jim Crockett Promotions, the NWA, which eventually became WCW. But yeah, I've been watching the man, the icon Sting, since the late 80s. And, I have very fond memories of Sting. I'm sure we all do, obviously. So I actually did a piece or a post this week on the Pro Wrestling World's Twitter page about 5 must-see Sting matches, or must-watch Sting matches. And actually, all these matches that I picked, I only picked 5, when they were all from the late 80s and early 90s. So theoretically, you could do probably a few other best of lists, WCW later on, during the NWO era, during the Crow era, Sting Crow era, Wolfpack era Sting, all that. And then obviously up through his time in TNA with the Joker Sting gimmick and what have you. So, I mean, there's so many levels to his career, and it was such a long, storied career. And I don't think there's anybody in the wrestling business who's had the longevity of Sting in recent memory. He was kind of the last of a dying breed, really. I mean, the last, I think I heard Mike Sempervive say something to the effect today of Sting being the last true pro wrestling hero, and I would have to agree with that. He is the last of the pro wrestling heroes. They're not going to make him like Sting anymore. And make no mistake, the man was ahead of his time. I mean, like I said, I went back and I was watching, one of my top 5 matches was Sting and Lex Luger versus the Steiner brothers from Super Brawl 1, and this match was really a sprint. It only went about 9-10 minutes, but the stuff that they were doing in this match was like futuristic. It would actually, the match that they had would have fit in today, in today's wrestling. It wouldn't have been a match out of place that you would see on an episode of AEW or WWE even. But yeah, just, Sting diving over the ropes onto his opponent, I mean, he was doing that stuff in 87, 88, even in the Ric Flair match, like I said, in the Steiner Brothers match, he leaped over the top and dove onto one of them, and, this was 91, I mean, there was guys who were doing that, but most of them were in Japan or in Mexico. There was very few North American wrestlers who were doing dives to the outside. It's a standard move today, but by those days' standards, it was nuts. And this was like a 6'3", 260, 270 pound guy doing that. It's kind of like the equivalent now of like Adam Page doing that kind of stuff. Like a guy he's not a cruiserweight or a lightweight. He's not even under 250, or maybe he's like 240, 250, 260. Guys start flying around the ring like that, it gets kind of nuts. But anyways, so yeah, that's a wonderful match. That's on the list. Sting versus Ric Flair in Greensboro, the first time he wrestled Ric Flair for the world title. Clash of the Champions 1, March of 1988. Also on the list, Just briefly, the other matches on the list, I had the Sting Cactus Jack Falls Count Anywhere match from Beach Blast, 1992. Wild match, obviously. Anything Mick Foley's involved in, obviously, is great, and he actually had a lot of great matches with Sting back in those days. Of people, obviously you weren't aware of that, but they did have some great matches. A couple other matches on there I would also put would be also later in that same year, Starrcade 92, the King of Cable Tournament Finals, which saw Sting and Big Van Vader face off in the tournament finals. Another phenomenal match. And then that was December 1992, and then a few months later, I believe it was February 93, you had the famous, Super Brawl 3 White Castle of Fear strat match between Sting and Vader as well. Just another phenomenal match. But that's just like 5 right off the top of the dome, basically. Just go back and watch. If you really want to get the essence of Sting in the early days, I mean, these are some good matches to watch. Some of the matches he had with Muta in that period were great as well. Really, any match he had against Ric Flair in that era was great. Some of the stuff he did with Lex Luger, there's a ton of great stuff. Obviously, go back, look through it as you will. Celebrate Sting here in the next couple days before Revolution on Sunday. It feels good, honestly, it really does. But getting to the actual Revolution pay-per-view itself, guys, this is a stacked card. I mean, really, that's kind of commonplace for AEW for pay-per-view. I mean, pay-per-view is their bread and butter. It's where they make the most money. Being a smaller audience at this point compared to what, the monster, behemoth that is WWE and the people that watch that. But, I mean, to a certain degree, AEW is a niche product because, people who are true wrestling fans need an alternative to the over-slicked, over-hyped, heavy sports entertainment style that WWE offers. If you're trying to get real pro wrestling, then obviously, in North America, AEW is the best you're going to do as far as a pro wrestling show, but also a pro wrestling show that caters to all different styles of wrestling, new, old, in between, whatever. They're trying to do it all for you. But like I said, these pay-per-views are stacked because it is their bread and butter. They want to do big buy rates because they count on this money for the pay-per-views to draw money. Simple as that. So, like I said, this card is no exception. They haven't announced any pre-show matches at this point. I would suggest they are doing an All-Star Scramble on the pay-per-view, a men's All-Star Scramble. I kind of had an idea, if Tony Khan, if you're listening, or anybody in in power there at AEW happens to be watching this video, how about an All-Star Scramble with the women and offer the same thing? Offer a world title match or a TBS title match or something along those lines. Do that on the pre-show. Showcase the women that you have, or a good portion of them. That I think that would be something good. So, I know at this point, if they were going to do a ladder match with all the women, which a lot of people talked about, they would have announced that already. Obviously, that would have been something that would be discussed as far as the pay-per-view at this point. So I don't think we're getting that. But hey, we might get an All-Star Scramble on the pre-show. I could definitely handle that. That would definitely work for me. But getting to the main card here, so we have, like I said, the All-Star Scramble, and I feel that the Meat Madness match got postponed because they didn't have enough meaty competitors in the match. They only had the 3 that were available. A lot of the other ones were unavailable. People like Miro, The Butcher, who have you, Keith Lee. So yeah, they kind of postponed that, but I still feel as if this is something like Wardlow has to win. It's for a title shot, so I'm not really sure how that's going to work. I mean, a lot of it depends on if we get surprised here and Wardlow doesn't win the match and somebody else wins the match. Maybe that might be an indicator of who wins the world title match. This match, because if Wardlow wins, I don't know. It's with Wardlow, it's kind of still up in the air. I think even if he wins this match, he gets a world title match. He doesn't necessarily need to be a heel or a babyface, because I kind of feel like he's in a gray area type character at this point. Like, yes, he's in a heel group. He's very disgruntled and very pissed off about his place in the company. So does that make the fans sympathetic more towards him because he gave that promo? Or if he wins a world title or gets a world title shot, does it start to pull at the fans' heartstrings as far as, you can't give this title to Adam Cole, like, this is you, man. This is all you. So, there's some elements of that going on as well, depending on where they go with this. But you almost got to think like, Undisputed Kingdom has been kind of downplayed quite a bit in the last 2 months. And obviously they got Roddy setting up this international title match, and they have Wardlow doing his speech as far as he's pissed off and he wants to win the world title, and supposedly he's supposed to give it to Adam Cole down the line. Adam Cole is out, obviously. The Kingdom, they obviously have the ROH tag titles, but they're not really focusing much on them at this point. So I don't, it's just something they really need. The Wardlow really has to win this match. I didn't really see any of the other names that really jumped out at me as guys that you're like, yeah, let's give him a world title match, whatever. I mean, there's always a possibility, you could, Lance Archer, Powerhouse Hobbs could win them as well, but it almost, or even Hook or somebody like that. But like I said, it's based on the promo and the trajectory of Wardlow. He has to win this match, doesn't he? He just has to. So I'm picking Wardlow. Moving on to the tag match. FTR versus Blackpool Combat Club, Jon Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli. Obviously, their first meeting was a draw on Dynamite a couple of weeks ago. This is one where I feel like FTR has to come back and win. They have to show superiority in the tag team format here. There's a reason why they won Tag Team of the Year two years running and have all these classic matches. And depending on what they do with the world title or the world tag team titles, if the Bucks win the titles, or if Sting and Darby Allin win the titles, then they would vacate the titles. Or I'm sorry, if they retain, they would vacate the titles and create like a tournament or something like that. And I've heard other people say this, and I already had the thought before I even heard somebody else say it. So obviously, I heard another thing. I actually heard Mike Sempervive say today, but I also thought this even before Mike said it. So obviously, great minds think alike. Obviously, but this is a perfect opportunity to get FTR versus the Young Bucks 4. I think the 3 matches that they've had have been very good to great, but I don't think we've seen the best match that they can have yet. So I mean, I would be all for them going to the well once more with FTR and Young Bucks in a final of a tag team tournament for the AEW tag titles. And obviously, given the current trajectory of everything and the fact that FTR is up 2-1 in the series, that would also be an opportunity for maybe the Bucks to get an underhanded victory versus FTR, even the series, get some heel heat, obviously, for fucking FTR over. So I mean, I think that would win all around. You'd have your two best tag teams, being focused on going into the future. But like I said, for that to happen, I feel like FTR has to win this match to get to that eventuality to make that all make sense. If that makes sense. So moving on. So the next match would be Daniel Garcia and Christian Cage for the TNT title. So I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say that Daniel Garcia is going to win this match, and it's going to be because Adam Copeland is going to return, and he's going to interfere in the match, and so Daniel Garcia becomes a champion, and it would also heat up the feud with Christian, possibly for I don't know, gimmick match blow off between the two with no titles on the line. This would also give Daniel Garcia, a huge boost and, give him a title run with the TNT title, which is something a lot of other young guys did in AEW previously. Sammy Guevara, Darby Allin, I think both held it multiple times, the TNT Championship, in their mid-20s. So, that makes sense, obviously, mid to late 20s. But, they could also surprise us. And, maybe Edge comes in and people think that he's going to help Daniel Garcia. He ends up turning on Daniel Garcia and helping Christian win. All of a sudden, Edge turns to the dark side, and then Christian and Edge are reunited. So, but I'm going to lean towards the former, which is Daniel Garcia finally getting the big moment and beating Christian. So that's my prediction at this point. But I definitely think this is a very close call as far as this match goes. Next up on the list, we have for the international title, Orange Cassidy versus Roderick Strong. Obviously another one, the United Kingdom really needs this, bad, real bad. Roddy Strong, I believe, will win the title. I feel as if, Orange Cassidy as the international champion, it's kind of oversaturated at this point and kind of overdone. I think we need a little bit of a break from Cassidy being the international champion. I know he sells a lot of merch and people enjoy the gimmick and whatnot. He is a good wrestler. I'm not going to say he's not a good wrestler. He's a great wrestler. I love him. But, other people deserve a chance here. Other people deserve some spotlight here. And they've been focusing on Cassidy for quite a while now. So I think it's time to move on here and do something else with the belt. And Roddy Strong giving the United Kingdom a vehicle, at the very least, as a title to kind of focus on AEW and let Roddy defend that and let the Undisputed Kingdom help him out there and, help him retain the title going forward for a few months and build up, the hatred and the animosity towards their group before MJF eventually returns. So moving on, next match I have on my list here is Eddie Kingston defending the Continental Crown, Triple Crown of Championships versus the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson. This is a really tough call because you can really make an argument for both sides as far as why Eddie Kingston should retain and then why Bryan Danielson should win the title. I think Eddie is doing very well with the title, and I don't necessarily see a reason why they would take it off him in 2 months. But at the same time, I think Bryan Danielson holding on to this Triple Crown for some length of time here this year before he goes into he shuts down and goes to an inactive competitor. Like I said, he's not actually retiring, but he's retiring from active competition, meaning he will still wrestle from time to time throughout the year. but there's no set schedule or whatever. He's going to be an attraction now. So I could definitely see this going both ways. I mean, Danielson could win it, and he could defend it against the rubber match with Okada with the Triple Crown on the line. There's a lot of different things you could do here. Danielson defending that Continental Crown versus Will Ospreay. And Will Ospreay maybe wins it from him and then holds it all the way until the Continental Classic of 2024 and defends it in the Continental Classic. Looks to defend that Triple Crown, just like Eddie did last year with the Ring of Honor title to unify them. Maybe somebody comes into the competition next year that's not Eddie Kingston and does that. Or Eddie Kingston wins it back from Bryan and, goes into the tournament himself and tries to win the Continental Classic again. But I am going to lean towards Bryan Danielson losing the match. I think Eddie Kingston beats him for a second time in a row to retain the Continental Crown. And Bryan Danielson will be forced to shake Eddie's hand, and that'll create more animosity, and maybe the next time that they meet, maybe then Bryan Danielson wins the Continental Crown, possibly. So that could happen as well. So, but I will go with Eddie Kingston in that match. But like I said, I can see it going either way. Next on the list, we might have the match that is the show stealer here. The match that could end up being one of the matches of the year for 2024, and that is saying something given the level of wrestling excellence that we are seeing currently in the pro wrestling world at this point in time. So, and that match would be the debuting Will Ospreay versus his fellow Don Callis family member, Konosuke Takeshita. I mean, this is simply, two of the best workers, two of the best performers in the world today, and that's saying something. There's a lot of amazing performers out there, but these two are probably, I could argue, Will Ospreay is probably number one, but Takeshita is probably in the top 5 at this point. The kid's absolutely fucking incredible. He's phenomenal. I think he's the next Okada or an Okada type figure. I think he could go back to Japan and be the next Okada if he wanted to. So that's the type of high praise that I have for Konosuke Takeshita. I think whatever happens here, it's going to cause more rift in the Callis family. I don't necessarily know or even think really that Will Ospreay will be out of the Don Callis family after Sunday. I think it'll just be another brick in the wall, as they would say, or as Pink Floyd and Roger Waters would say, another brick in the wall in the whole situation. But my gut tells me that Will Ospreay wins his debut in just a show-stopping match. It's one of those matches where you go, like, it just has to be 5 stars just because it exists, basically. This is the match I'm most looking forward to, and I think most of your big pure wrestling fans, this is the match that most people are looking forward to. It's going to be awe-inspiring, guys. So just strap in and hold on to your hats for that one, because it's going to be a barn burner. So yeah, I'm going with Ospreay in that one. So next one would be, I think we're getting down to the final 3 matches here. Women's world title, Timeless Toni Storm versus the Virtuosa, Deonna Purrazzo. It's been a decent feud. It's been intriguing. Deanna's been pretty good. I do like the storyline. I think they've tried to tell a good story. That's a positive thing as far as AEW's growth as a company, as far as their creative and their product that they're putting out there. I feel as if Toni Storm, though, has to retain. It's working. She had the gimmick of the year for the Wrestling Observer for a reason. The gimmick is working. So it's like, why stop now at this point? I think this is all keeping the belt on her, almost like we're on a collision course in the next few months, or the next 6 months maybe, for an incoming Mercedes Moné to face off with Timeless Toni Storm in kind of like a battle of the glamorous image of the past versus the glamorous image of today, which is obviously Mercedes Moné. I don't think that dichotomy or that contrast is more evident than in a Timeless Toni Storm versus Mercedes Moné match somewhere down the line. So I think Toni Storm has to retain here. Yeah. So moving forward, you've got for the AEW World Title, you got Swerve Strickland versus Hangman Adam Page versus Samoa Joe. You can make cases, I think, for any three of these guys to win. Mostly Swerve and Joe, though, I think. It just feels like Hangman's kind of the odd man out in this situation. Although I think the heat between himself and Swerve Strickland is going to be the downfall of both of them in this situation. I feel like this is going to be obviously a phenomenal match, but this might be one where Joe takes advantage of the heat between the two of his two opponents and ends up retaining because those two are just too focused on each other. And I also feel like Samoa Joe has only held the title for 2 months, and I feel like he's got to hold it a little bit longer than that to make it mean something. So I'm going with Samoa Joe here in this situation. But make no mistake, I think Swerve will be the AEW World Champion, by summer, if not before, even by Double or Nothing, possibly at the very latest. But yeah, I think Joe retains here and moves on. So we get down to the main event for the AEW World Tag Team titles. It's Sting in his retirement match with Darby Allin as his partner, the AEW World Tag Team Champions currently, versus one of the tag teams of our generation, the Young Bucks, who are currently doing a corporate EVP heel gimmick to really drive home the old versus young, or old school versus new school contrast, and trying to tell a decent story here as far as Sting on his way out. This is our tornado tag match, which has become pretty traditional for Sting matches here at AEW since he's come to AEW, freeform format. This should be something else. I mean, there's going to be a lot of famous people, a lot of wrestlers, maybe some celebrities and stuff in the crowd. It's going to be like a packed house. Just the atmosphere of the show alone, and especially for this last match, is going to be palpable. It's going to be unbelievable. And honestly, Sting has said it even in an SI interview this week that he said, hold on for what I'm going to do in this match. You're going to want to go back and watch the tape on this one long after I'm done. So, I mean, he's going to go all out in this match, apparently. It's like knowing, like, hey, this is my last match. I'm going to go balls to the wall here. So this isn't going to be Stinger motherfucking phoning it in here. Yeah, he's going to be going ape shit. What the Bucks do, the crazy shit that they do. And then, obviously, obviously everybody knows the crazy shit that Darby Allin does. And if Sting's like, y'all ain't seen nothing yet, I'm going all out balls to the wall in this last match. I mean, man, this is going to be, it's going to be something, especially with basically a sellout crowd. So obviously it's going to be a phenomenal match. So I think another factor here is that Darby Allin did say this week that he addressed the Mount Everest thing because he was supposed to climb Mount Everest, and then he was back on TV and everybody was like, well, wasn't he supposed to go climb Mount Everest? So from what he said this week, he is leaving in April, and it's like a 2-month process. So with that in mind, I would feel like Darby might be back at, like, I don't know, Forbidden Door or something like that, maybe at the earliest, for him to come back. So regardless, I don't think Darby is going to hold on to the titles, or try to hold on to the titles. So really, it's kind of up in the air as far as, do the Bucks win, and Sting does the old school thing where he puts somebody over in his last match, or does Tony Khan say, nah, fuck all that noise thing. You are not losing in your final match. Well, it doesn't matter. We'll do what we have to do. We'll vacate the titles. And like I was saying earlier, maybe Sting and Darby Allin winning the titles and then having to vacate the titles opens the door for a tag team title tournament where maybe they reinvigorate the tag team scene here in AEW, because right now it's just kind of lackluster. You got the Bucks and FTR, and there's not really much else. I mean, there are teams, obviously the Best Friends and the Kingdom, or Undisputed Kingdom, Taven and Bennett. You got some good young teams too, like your Top Flights and your Private Parties. But maybe like a tag team tournament, like a showcase might be something that really showcases the tag teams to fill the new titles, is something that we kind of need. Where maybe the Bucks and FTR kind of each have great matches with all the young teams leading into their finals match, their fourth meeting in their series. Maybe that's something that we would need. Hint, hint, Tony Khan. Maybe the Bucks and FTR working with all those teams on their way to the finals would spark and create a lot of interest back in the tag team division again, hopefully. So either way, I feel like almost like they got to do a tag tournament here after the fact. Like I said, unless the Bucks win outright, which could happen because, like I said, Sting is old school. But I'm gonna say, I'm gonna go out on a limb, or not go out on a limb, but this is a very close decision regardless. But I'm gonna say that Sting and Darby Allin retain triumphantly, and feel good moment, tears and emotions for the fans, for his fellow wrestlers, himself, Darby. And then obviously that would lead into them vacating the titles, or if there wasn't a tournament, maybe you could do like a thing where, I don't know, the Young Bucks force Darby to defend the titles at the last minute, and he doesn't have a partner or something like that, or maybe they find him a partner, and that starts a new feud that ultimately leads to the Bucks winning the titles, and then maybe injuring Darby Allin. Then he goes off and does the Mount Everest thing. There's a lot of different ways you can go here, but I feel like the easiest thing and the most the thing that's going to make people feel the best, at least, coming out of the show, is Sting and Darby Allin retaining the belts and vacating the titles down the line. I mean, hell, you could even put Darby in the tournament with another partner. Maybe he loses in the first round. Maybe he loses to the Bucks in the first round, and then gets beat up, right after the match by them. You could do that too. I think the fairy tale ending, I think, is better here, and that's one thing that, like, WWE, difference between WWE and AEW is AEW is more apt to give you the fairy tale ending. Because it is more about fan service, where WWE, a lot of times the attitude is like, we know better than you guys. Let us make the decisions and take you on the twists and turns, and it doesn't matter how you, kind of like the whole Rock thing. It doesn't matter how you feel. It doesn't matter if you don't finish your story. Like, who cares what you want? What did he say a couple weeks ago? Let the Rock take your ass on a ride. Who cares what you want? That's kind of the WWE attitude. But I feel like Tony is more a people pleaser, and yeah, he's WWE's into mind fucking you like AEW is into, well, they like to fuck you, in a theoretical sense, I suppose, in a figurative sense, I should say, in a good way, they like to make you feel good. Where WWE sometimes likes to make you feel bad just to kind of troll you. So, and like I said, Sting, Darby Allin should be the fairy tale ending. So that's it, guys, as far as the predictions go. I hope everybody enjoys AEW Revolution. I will be back over the weekend. I think I'm going to try to do a couple more videos, maybe a Wrestling Observer reaction, maybe a video essay idea I've been having as well that I might do over the next couple days possibly. But yeah, so enjoy AEW Revolution. I know I will be enjoying it, and we will talk to you guys soon. Have a good Friday. Peace.